Welcome to Season 3 of the College Admission TV podcast. We explore the fast-changing space of AI, education, and the future of the workforce. In this episode, we're joined by President Brian Hempill of Old Dominion University.
President Brian Hempill, welcome to our podcast today. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here with you.
Today we have with us a very, very special guest, President Brian Hempill from Old Dominion University. I'm particularly excited to talk to Dr. Hempill because of all the initiatives that Old Dominion is taking, everything from Monarch Mind to their centralized leadership to their centennial cluster, all the work that the university has been doing for the past couple of years, especially around AI. Just for our audience, what we cover on this podcast and is titled AI Education and the Future of Workforce. We like to understand how higher education leaders perceive AI long-term impact on the labor market, on student preparedness, and actually on how they're going to be running their institutions as AI. We're still at its infancy, I would say, and getting your perspective as a leader of a reputable institution is going to be tremendous for our listeners. So I guess I'd like to start with this question. Just up front, how do you perceive AI and how it's going to impact the future of our workforce?
Yeah, when we think about AI and the future of workforce, it's going to change so much about how we go about our daily work, how we engage with our students, how we engage with faculty and staff and the community. And so AI is going to be at the heart of that work, and it's here to stay. I will tell you, I would say it's not going anywhere anytime soon. I think it's only going to get better, and it's going to improve the work that we're doing.
Mm-hmm. And what do you need to do to equip and educate students for careers that may not exist, that may not yet exist due to AI disruption?
Yeah, well, I will tell you that it starts with when you think about the future of work, and I want to get to that piece of equipping students. When you think about the future of work, which I think was your first question, it really looks at what are we putting in front of our faculty and our staff that allows them to be able to engage with students in ways in which the ways that just improve the quality of the service. And I know as you started, you mentioned the Monarch Mind. For us, that being what is ODU's flagship generative AI platform, really provides us an opportunity to provide our faculty, our staff, a secure, really private environment to explore the power of artificial intelligence. And it's done wonders for us. And it's interesting in this. It really is something that was built off of multiple large language models, including OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Meta Llama 3. It used all of them, the strength of them, to build something that was very personalized to our institution. And I will tell you, it is serving us well in terms of just how we function, how we are generating text, analyzing data, processing files. And all of that leads to, when you think about just the future of how we work, we've created learning assistants, advising assistants that will work with our advisors as they are engaging and working with students, really moving some of the tasks that consume a lot of their time, and using our Monarch Mind and using the advising assistant to help with that, allowing them to have more personal time directly with the student. And so it's really making significant changes to the work and the process that we're going through. And so I'm really excited about it.
Not to put you on the spot, but could you give one example, one or two examples on how it is helping you today
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to something I just shared a second ago. When we are thinking about, for example, learning assistants, when you think about our students and the fact that there will be times that maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning with students of the day where they have a question, they need some information. And so to have a 24/7 AI-powered course assistant to provide students with some of the instant access to course materials and personalized responses, this is a game changer, and it allows them to be able to get that support that they desperately need. That's one strong example of how it's making a difference for not only our faculty, but for our students.
It's fantastic. And it's being used. Has it been adopted? Are
Yeah.
you seeing increase in the use?
Yes, this is something that we have launched. We went through a brief pilot of that, but something that I know that we'll see even much more use this fall is with something that we just piloted over the process of the summer.
It's fantastic. Now, not every industry, I mean, going back to the Industrial Revolution, you look at how electricity had a displacement, it displaced some jobs, but it enabled a lot more jobs, or cars, or what have you. So the projection is that AI is not going to be impacting all industries equally. I mean, if you look at, for example, industries that require a lot of compliance, right? Like in healthcare or in finance or what have you, if Sarbanes-Oxley or HIPAA. Which industries do you think are going to be more immediately affected in terms of the job market versus others? Which industries are going to be more latent? Which industries are going to be impacted more immediately?
I think you're going to see pretty immediate. Any industry that is heavy in data, I think they're going to be impacted. So when you think about healthcare and some of the opportunities we have with AI and automation in terms of data, when you think about what we're seeing in terms of business and the business industry, what we see in terms of just general technology, in terms of any of those sectors, I think you're going to see rapid impact. But I don't think they're going to, I think the way to look at this is to ask the question of what industries may not be impacted. Because you're going to see a broader impact across so many industries that it's going to be expected from the business community, from business and industry, that our students are coming in with a level of competency to work alongside AI as we think about the nature of the work. And so I think a better way to ask that question is what won't it impact? Because I think it's going to cut across so much of what we do in this country and across the world.
So going back to the students, so, Monarch Mind helps students in terms of my understanding, in terms of advising or asking questions and other stuff. But how do you plan to integrate, the pedagogy that is going to allow these students to learn how to work along with how to work closer and get them ready for careers?
Yeah. And so with Monarch Mind is really something as we geared it toward faculty and staff. A lot of the other tools that we're providing for our students are really, and that's something they'll have an opportunity to do. But a part of what getting to your question is that how are you preparing students to work alongside AI? Well, that starts with general education and how we're going through general education reform right now. And so as a part of one of the items that the provost is truly focused on is looking at how we can integrate AI into a part of the general education experience. So you don't leave our institution without having some base level knowledge of AI from a functionality standpoint. And so that's something that we worked on. But we also are creating credentials that are allowing students to really be able to look at key areas that they are pursuing as they think about their their careers. For example, we've already launched what is a certificate in trustworthy AI. We've launched a AI certificate around data science. This fall, we have cyber defense, healthcare, and supply chain operations, all AI certificates that students will be able to pick up. And then in the spring, we're launching business strategy and operations, digital content management, education and learning technologies, and literacy. And so all of these, as you can imagine, are so important as students are working toward whatever their degree may be in at the institution, able to pick up these key areas of competency with their certificates. It's going to be beneficial for them as they go out into a workforce that's changing dramatically.
And correct me if I'm wrong, in 2024, Old Dominion had a strategy to hire AI-focused faculty members, right?
Yes.
What is the filter on that? How do you hire AI-focused faculty members, and what is expected of them?
Yeah, you really did your homework. I'm impressed. You did your homework there. I love it. I would tell you that we launched an initiative. In 5 years, Old Dominion University will turn 100. And so we've launched an initiative called the Centennial Cluster Initiative. And so we are hiring 25 new faculty members that are bringing expertise in healthcare, autonomous systems, data science, and ethical AI governance, all with this lens of AI in terms of their research, their experience that they have. And so when we think about the opportunity to bring that type of faculty and expertise into the institution, with a focus on accelerating science, engineering, and machine learning, the opportunities that we have around data-driven artificial intelligence and special education, trustworthy artificial intelligence. And of the 25, we've already hired 14 of them. And once again, this is to drive the research and the teaching that we have across our campus. And that's an important initiative. And I will tell you, they're not easy to find. It's a competitive market out there for these individuals.
Yeah.
But we've been very fortunate thus far with hiring 14 of the 25. And the other thing that I would tell you that's been pretty beneficial for us is that we had the opportunity to select it was about 10 of them, AI teaching fellows. And so bringing these individuals on, and their sole job in terms of, and they were from a number of disciplines, their sole purpose was to look at the mission of how to integrate AI into our curriculum, thereby ensuring that students are gaining more hands-on experience and a deeper understanding of the AI application. And I will tell you that that's helped us as we are going out and looking at these Centennial Cluster hires, because we can look at it through a different lens based on the work of these AI teaching fellows. And so really proud of them. And they came from areas such as healthcare, cybersecurity, business, and education.
It's fantastic. I mean, it is incredible how much work you all have done. I mean, I'm just blown away. Everything from your Assist Now solutions and supporting students, your Vision Lab. I mean, who is leading all of this at your institution? There's so much going on at Old Dominion.
So we took a step. This is not something that happened in the last month or the last year or the last year and a half. We've been very thoughtful about the work and how we were going to get to this particular space. And, it's always a team effort, but you always have to have someone that's leading that particular team. And so we created what is the Division of Digital Technology, the Division of Digital Transformation and Technology. And in creating that division, it brought together our full IT operation for the campus with our online operation, which is ODU Global, and then bringing those two together and really having a lens and a focus of driving technology, driving transformation in terms of technology for the campus. And that's led by our Vice President, Nina Rodriguez Gonzer. And so she's really tip of the spear in terms of leading this effort and because it's not just about teaching and learning. Teaching and learning is an important piece of it, but it's also about operations of the campus, and it's also looking at academic and education. What are we doing in that space? What are we doing in our operations, and what are we doing in research? And so those are the three pillars that we focused on. And there are a number of campuses that are looking at this, but a number of them are working in selecting a vertical. They may just look at research, or they may just look at operations, or they may just look at education. And we made the strategic decision that we were going to very thoughtfully focus on all three of them. And that you've seen that work within the Chronicle of Higher Education. You've seen it in Inside Higher Education, and we're continuing to stay very focused on how we are advancing this work, because we know what it means and the responsibility that we have as a public university in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We take that responsibility serious, and how we're positioning and preparing our students to be those next great citizen leaders wherever they may go.
One of the discussions that a lot of large companies are having is actually not hiring as many people. They're actually, a lot of even growing companies are hiring less, and they got all of these AI agents and what have you taking them. How do you think internally your operation might change as a result of AI, in terms of everything from admission to enrollment to faculty to all these other places? Do you think 10 years from now, the workforce and how you run things might be dramatically different?
JP, I will tell you, you heard it here. You heard it here. We will never have an AI agent in any form teaching our classes. Our faculty will always teach our classes. But when you think about from a operation standpoint, as I mentioned, I was just at a board meeting, and one of my colleagues, which does very similar work to the work that you do, except he deals more in private equity, more so than deal with venture capitalists. As a part of that, he talked about the 150, count them, 150 automation engineers that they have. And their big push of their job is looking at all of the operations that they can truly automate, of where they have people working through those processes. Not that all of those individuals will go away in terms of those jobs, because AI will always need some type of human connection feeding it information. It gets smarter by the work that we do. And so the key is, I encourage our people to think about it from the standpoint, not as looking at jobs that are going to go away, but looking at how we reskill and upskill individuals to work alongside AI. Does that make sense for you, JP?
Absolutely. So it's gonna be a complementary technology as far as enhancing a lot of jobs as well, and not just displacing it.
Yes. And now I will be the first to tell you, you may need less people in this area, and I wouldn't dare call out an area on this podcast, but you may need less people in this area, and therefore you may reskill and upskill individuals because you need them somewhere else in the academy. And I think you'll see some of those type of movements as we need to position people as we are becoming more efficient. But where do we need to get stronger within the institution?
What barriers, going back to this question again around financial and regulatory, do you think we'll encounter in trying to adopt AI for AI-related workforce changes? What barriers do you think are going to be there?
I think you mentioned a regulatory environment. Of course, you could always have some of those types of challenge, but I think the biggest challenge that universities are going to face will be culture. I think that is the biggest hurdle and the biggest challenge of implementation of AI. It is change in culture and people learning something that is very, very new. I want to take you back to the 1980s when we were introducing the internet. And if you would remember some of those conversations, it was conversations about a lack of control over information dissemination, potential misuse, cheating, technology dependency. Those were all the conversations and challenges and that we were having at that particular point. But when you think about where we are and think about where we are, when you think about how it's truly been integrated and so much a part of everything that we do, I think we're facing some of those same questions, some of the same concerns, some of the same challenges. And it's a matter of how do we help people navigate that and understand that this is here to stay. And so how do we help it make us better in what we do?
Do you see higher education degree granting process changing because information is so much ubiquitous out there? So for example, a bachelor degree, maybe you could get it in 2 years. Maybe we change the structure on how we run higher education and we grant degrees.
I would tell you, I would argue with you that that's already changed. This was changed before AI truly became popular in terms of, as you used the buzzword earlier. That is something that we were already combating and dealing with. And why was that? When we think about, when you go back probably since the beginning of really the what we think of the modern day higher education, we've really controlled and dominated credentialing in terms of providing whether it's the certificate, the undergraduate degree, the master's, the PhD. We've really dominated in that particular space with no rival. And I would say for the first time in our history, we're truly in a competitive environment with business and industry where they are credentialing individuals at large numbers. And it's not just business and industry, it's for profits as well that are credentialing, and people are moving in directly into the workforce with those credentials, which creates, you're very attuned to the value proposition that we deal with around higher education. And I would argue that we did that to ourselves. We were a bit tone deaf as families were speaking to us. We were a bit tone deaf as our legislators were speaking to us. We were tone deaf in terms of business. And so now we find ourselves in a very competitive environment that we have to be intentional about communicating the value of what we provide and thinking about how we are truly positioning our students to be successful as they move into the workforce. And in doing that, I would say that AI is going to be an important part of that, because are we giving them the credentials and the experiences they need to truly be prepared as they move into that work environment?
So here's a big question. Industrial Revolution arguably took 100 years to unfold, from what happened in England all the way after World War II.
Yes.
Do we have enough run rate, in your opinion, to retool our economy? Because this might happen in 10 years or 15 years and be able to regenerate the jobs necessary, especially people are living very long ages now. So it's not, people are working in their 80s. So the speed by which AI is coming and the retooling that's necessary, does that concern you at all as far as job displacement?
Yeah, it does. It does. And the reason that it does provide concern for me is that I don't believe that we have enough institutions that are dialed in and focused on this and continue to want to educate and credential in the ways that we've historically done. And I think that the speed in which our economy is changing, the speed in which workforce is changing, and what business and industry desires and needs to truly advance our country and the world, I think that we have to do a better job. But another part of this is that we have to look at how the fact that if we don't do it, others are going to do it. Other pockets, other industries are going to do this. I think we're going to be fine. We've always been resilient as a nation. We've always been resilient, and so it's going to be a matter of how quickly we're able to pivot and respond. And if higher education doesn't help with that or do its fair share, then you're going to see other industries continue to pick up that pace. When you look at what was just announced in terms of, if I'm not mistaken, Amazon just announced billions of dollars of what they are building out in Indiana. I think it's Newcastle, Indiana, if I'm not mistaken, and it's super AI. The work that is going on at this stage, it's exciting, and it's not something that, I'll be candid with you, as a president and CEO, I'm not nervous about it, because because we're going to do our fair share in responding to this. And I think there are a number of brilliant individuals across this country that are leading public and private institutions that are also going to realize they have to step forward and do their part in delivering the type of graduates that we need to really lead and drive our future.
If you could put on your John Dewey hat and start imagining education, as far as future-facing education initiatives from scratch, like going forward the next 100 years, right? How would you start framing education in K-12 all the way onto college and so forth? At a high level, how do you think we need to rethink this new world that we're entering, if anything?
JP, you've moved so far from your list of topics and questions, but I'm excited about it. It's okay. I would tell you that I'm out of my lane in terms of K-12. I couldn't even begin to share a thought or a comment as it relates to that particular area. But I will say, as we think about what we're doing on college campuses, you know, we need to make sure that we're always thinking about how are we, I'm thinking about it through a competency lens.
Yeah.
How are we truly making sure that students have the competencies that they need? The number of times I've had conversations over my now 14 years of being in the role of a president and CEO, over that particular stretch of time, the number of businesses that I've had an opportunity to speak with, and they shared that our graduates are great, they do a phenomenal job, but we have to spend the first 6 months helping them understand the culture, the environment, business, some of the basic operations of what they need to do to be successful. And to me, we have to position them in terms of some of the basics of what they need from an educational standpoint and their key disciplines, but how are we giving them competencies for that to transition into the world of work? And I think that we lost sight of that in some places, and I think that we have to be intentional. If we were going to go back and think about this, how are we truly providing them with the knowledge and the education they need? How are we telling them not what to think, but how to think, how to problem solve, how to address some of the key challenges that we know that they will face? And so that's certainly a tall order of your question there, but it's something that I think I just go back to competency. How do we integrate that into what that we do and what we do on a daily basis and positioning them for the future?
Again, my apologies. Sometimes I forget these are podcasts. I just get, you have such deep feedback that I'm like, you know, I forget that that there's certain questions, but I think our audience would appreciate it. My last question would be this: how does this change your leadership and who you work with?
Yeah, so for me, I would tell you, is, you know, just from a leadership standpoint, you know, I won't say that it necessarily changes my leadership. I had the opportunity, and I will give credit where it's due. I had an opportunity a number of years ago, and I was at an APLU conference. And I'd never seen this gentleman before, but I went there, and I was a brand new president, and I had the opportunity to hear Michael Crow speak, and he was the keynote. And I heard him speaking about higher education in ways that I had never heard in my professional career. He looked at it through a different lens. It was a futuristic lens. It was forward thinking. It was some of the comments that he made just really intrigued me about innovation. It intrigued me about leadership, collaboration, how we truly work together within the academy and outside of the academy to make a difference. And for JP, for me, that was a point that I started looking at higher education through a bit of a different lens. And from that, innovation was always a part of, I would say, if you could add something to someone's DNA, that happened for me at that particular point. And so since that time, I've started engaging in conversations with thought leaders around the future of higher education and what are some of the things that we need to do to make sure that we are advancing. With the book College Unbound, Jeff Salingo, having an opportunity to spend time with thought leaders and looking at the future, really shaped the work that we're doing now at Old Dominion University and places I've had the privilege of serving before. I say that to say, in terms of my leadership, I look for individuals that are extremely bright. I look for people that have an amazing work ethic. I want leaders who are going to be willing to think outside of the box about how we advance the institution. I like people that are very much people that are focused on we and the academy versus I, because when you have an opportunity to bring a group of smart people together that are focused on a common mission of improving teaching, learning, research, looking at how we are truly advancing the institution and providing an opportunity for students that's unparalleled, you can have something that's pretty special and pretty unique. And I think that we have that at Old Dominion University. And I would say that it's being recognized by others out there in terms of some of our work. We just maybe signed an amazing partnership with Google. And we are excited about what that partnership means, because we're not just a client, we're a partner around an incubator, AI incubator. And I'm excited about what we're doing in that particular space. And we haven't even gone out public with that. So you're hearing it here first. We've not gone public with the announcement as it relates to that, but it's coming very, very soon. And so it's exciting. It's exciting what we're doing. And you have to select the right leaders, and they're going to be leaders, some from higher education, some from other industries, that can come in and bring something to the table that helps us think about our very forward-focused future.
If you could leave students and parents who are going to be listening to this podcast with a message about Old Dominion University, what would it be?
My very simple message to parents and students is that if you want to attend an institution that is truly thinking about your preparation for your future and equipping you with the opportunity to learn in ways that you're going to work using AR, VR, immersive learning, XR, looking at all of the adaptive tools of learning and positioning students for a bright future, this is the institution where you're going to be able to think outside of the box and experience new technology that's going to position you to be a leader in the future.
President Hempill, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
JP, thank you. I've truly enjoyed it. You have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the College Admission TV Presidential Podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll bring you another insightful conversation with a distinguished leader in higher education.